Look at this pot. Just look at it. Scorched black on the bottom. Burned layers, baked into the steel like ancient rock formations. At this point, it isn't really a cooking pot anymore. It's a monument to every cleaner that failed. And I had tried them all. The blue bottle. The green one. The spray that cost more than the pot itself and had the word industrial printed in bold across the front, as if that word alone was worth $18. I even tried one that claimed, and I am completely serious, it delivered laboratory-grade results for home kitchens. Nothing worked. I was about 3 days away from throwing this entire pot in the trash, and then something stopped me. It's under almost every kitchen sink in America, you'll find a graveyard. Not of cookware, not of food, of promises. Half-empty bottles with bold claims and bright labels. It cuts through grease in seconds. Professional strength formula. Clinically proven results? We buy them because the packaging tells us we should. Because the commercial shows a spotless pot in under a minute. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught to trust the label over our own judgment. Here's what they don't print on those labels. Most of what you're paying for is water. Water, synthetic fragrance, and foam. Because foam looks like it's working. Foam feels productive. Foam sells. A cleaner that worked silently without theatrics would terrify the marketing department. That burned pot on my counter laughed at every single one of those bottles. My grandmother had one pot. Not one pot per dish. It's not a non-stick for eggs, and a stainless for sauce, and a cast iron for bread. One pot. And it lasted for decades in her kitchen. I used to watch her clean it when I was a child. There was no spray, no color-coded sponge, no collection of plastic bottles under the sink. She had a bar of the cheapest soap available and a small tin she kept beside the stove. Inside that tin was a dark, gritty paste that smelled faintly of something chemical and something earthy at the same time. I asked her once what it was. She said, "This is all you'll ever need." I was maybe 8 years old. I didn't fully understand it then. I was a child of a generation that believed newer meant better, branded meant superior, and expensive meant effective. It took me 4 more decades in a scorched pot on a Tuesday afternoon to understand what she already knew. I want you to forget something for the next 10 minutes. Forget the cleaning aisle. Forget the labels. Forget every advertisement that ever told you keeping a kitchen clean requires a specialty product. For every surface and a different bottle for every problem. Instead, I want you to look at something you probably have in your refrigerator right now. Coca-Cola. Before you reach for the remote, stay with me. Because what I'm about to show you isn't a trick or a household hack. It is documented basic chemistry that the cleaning industry has spent decades hoping you would forget. Cola contains phosphoric acid. That's not folklore. That's printed on the ingredient list of every bottle, hiding in plain sight behind that familiar red logo. And phosphoric acid is, by chemical definition, a rust remover, a mineral scale dissolver, and a grease cutter. Pair it with the right supporting ingredients, and you have something that the companies spending millions on advertising absolutely do not want you to know about. Here is what we need. 1 bar of the plainest, cheapest soap you can find. Not the moisturizing kind, not the artisan variety. The plain bar, the simple one, the kind that costs almost nothing, because that's exactly what makes it perfect. Half a bottle of regular Coca-Cola, not diet, because the acid content matters more here than the sugar. A tablespoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of coarse salt. That is the entire formula. 4 ingredients, probably under $2 combined. And together, they will accomplish what an $18 professional strength spray could not. Step 1. Grate the soap. Use the fine side of a box grater and turn that bar into a pile of thin flakes. This isn't for aesthetics, it's functional. Flakes dissolve faster and more evenly than chunks, and a smooth, consistent paste is what we're building toward. You don't want lumps in the final product. Step 2. In a small saucepan, combine the Coca-Cola and the soap flakes. Set the heat to low. And here's the rule that cannot be broken, not even once. Low and slow. High heat will burn the sugar in the cola and transform your mixture into a sticky, useless caramel. Low heat allows the soap flakes to melt gently into the liquid, lets the two combine without fighting each other. Stir continuously and watch it happen. The flakes soften, then dissolve, Then the mixture begins to thicken slightly, like a thin, dark gravy. Step 3. Remove from heat. While the mixture is still warm and fluid, add the baking soda and salt immediately. Then stir without stopping, because this is the moment the formula truly comes alive. The baking soda hits the acidic cola and fizzes, aggressively, visibly, almost dramatically. That reaction is the sodium bicarbonate meeting the phosphoric acid, releasing carbon dioxide, and in doing so, binding the mixture into something thicker, denser, closer to a paste. The salt brings grit, natural, coarse, abrasive grit that no liquid formula on earth can replicate. Let it cool fully. It will thicken further as it does. When it reaches the consistency of a firm toothpaste, you are ready. Let me take 30 seconds to explain what is actually happening here, because you deserve to understand the tool you're using, not just use it. Soap is a surfactant. One end of every soap molecule is attracted to water. The other end is attracted to oil and grease when soap is applied. It essentially builds a molecular bridge between two things that naturally repel each other, fat and water, and allows them to be rinsed away together. That's why soap works on cooking residue. It isn't magic. It is molecular chemistry that has been understood for over 2,000 years. The Coca-Cola contributes phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid has a well-documented ability to dissolve iron oxide, which is rust, and to break down the mineral scale that forms when water evaporates on metal surfaces. That hard, rock-like crust on a scorched pot is largely oxidized carbon and mineral deposits. The acid begins working on both from the moment it makes contact. The salt provides mechanical abrasion, the physical grinding action that removes material the acid and soap have already loosened. Without abrasion, you're essentially just pushing debris around. The salt gives you the means to actually lift and eliminate it. And the baking soda, beyond its role in the initial fizzing reaction, is itself a mild, abrasive, and natural deodorizer. It moderates the excess acidity, adds body to the paste, helps lift organic residue that the acid alone doesn't dissolve. For ingredients, one formula. Over 2,000 years of chemistry, packaged in something you can buy at a corner store for less than the cost of a coffee. Now, the moment of truth. Apply a generous layer of paste to the scorched surface. Don't be conservative. You want full coverage, a visible coating that completely obscures the burned area beneath it. Every part of the burn should be buried under paste, and then walk away. 15 to 20 minutes. This is the part that the commercial cleaning industry almost never tells you about, because waiting doesn't feel like cleaning. We have been trained, carefully and expensively, to want instant results. We associate speed with effectiveness. But the acid needs time to penetrate the carbon layer. The soap needs time to work beneath it. Patience here isn't weakness. It's what separates a good result from a great one. When the time is up, take a firm, non-scratch scrubber, not steel wool, which will permanently mark the surface, and begin scrubbing in slow, circular motions. Consistent pressure, steady circles. Don't attack the pot. Work with the paste. Watch the color of what comes off. Gray dark. Gray flakes lifting from the surface, that's the burn, loosening and releasing after years of sitting there. Rinse with warm water and assess. The improvement will be significant. In my case, roughly 80% of the surface was clean after the first pass. But in the corners, along the edges of the burn pattern, a handful of stubborn marks remained. Dark, calcified spots that the first round hadn't fully reached. This is where most people accept defeat, declare it good enough, and put the pot away. It is not good enough, and this is not the ceiling. Here's the technique almost nobody talks about. When those stubborn spots remain after the first pass, the last 15 or 20% that simply will not move, do not scrub harder, not add more paste and repeat the same process. Instead, apply a fresh layer of paste over the remaining marks. Then take a clean rag, soak it thoroughly in Coca-Cola, and lay it flat directly on top of the paste. Just lay it there. Don't press it in, don't scrub. Just let it sit, covering the paste completely. Then wait 30 minutes. What the wet rag does is prevent the paste from drying out, left uncovered. The paste gradually loses its moisture content. As it dries, the acid becomes less chemically active. The contact with the burned surface becomes less intimate, and the cleaning process slows and eventually stops entirely before its work is done. The cola-soaked rag maintains moisture, keeps the acid alive and working. It sustains the soap's contact with the metal. Over 30 minutes, it allows the formula to penetrate even the most calcified, deeply embedded deposits, the ones that have been baked into the surface so long they've almost become structurally part of the pot itself. This is not a shortcut. It is the understanding that chemistry requires sustained contact, and contact requires time. The rag is simply the tool that makes both possible simultaneously. After 30 minutes, remove the rag. Scrub once more with the same circular motion, and this time you will notice something different. The resistance is almost gone. The remaining material practically lifts away on its own. The hard work has already been done at the molecular level. You're just completing the removal. Rinse thoroughly with warm water. Rinse a second time to ensure any sugar residue from the cola is fully removed. Because if it isn't, you will have exchanged one type of sticky problem for another. Then dry the pot completely and look at it in good light. This pot has been in continuous use for 20 years. It has cooked curries, soups, sauces, things I can't even remember anymore. I was one decision away from sending it to a landfill. It's not brand new. I want to be honest with you about that. There are traces on the interior that are now part of this pot's permanent history. Faint shadows of decades of cooking that no formula in the world will fully erase. But the caked-on carbon? Gone. The hard, black, impenetrable burn layer that 11 commercial products never touched? Gone. The pot is clean. Genuinely, functionally, unmistakably clean. One important caution before moving forward. Do not use this paste on non-stick cookware. The salt's abrasion combined with the cola's acidity will damage the non-stick coating permanently. Stainless steel, cast iron, enamel, uncoated ceramic, yes. Non-stick surfaces, never. Ow. Let me ask you something. If a $2 paste made from 4 ingredients most people already own can clean a 20-year-old scorched pot better than every expensive commercial product on the market, why don't we know about it? The answer is not complicated. There is no profit in a formula you can make in your kitchen for $2. There is significant profit. Billions of dollars of annual profit in a formula that arrives in a branded bottle with a celebrity endorsement. A mall display, and a marketing budget larger than most national education systems. The commercial cleaning industry generates over $30 billion in revenue every single year in the United States alone. That number depends entirely on your continued ignorance of what your grandmother already knew. It depends on you forgetting that phosphoric acid sits in your refrigerator. It depends on you believing that the foam means something. It depends on you walking into a store, seeing 17 options on a shelf, and reaching for the most expensive one, because expensive must mean it works better. Every generation that loses this knowledge is another $1 billion of market share for companies that have never, not once, had your clean kitchen as their primary concern. Their primary concern is your belief that you cannot manage without them. 1 bar of cheap soap, 4 ingredients, $2. Versus 11 bottles, $9 spent over 3 years, and a pot I was about to throw away.
You decide which story makes more sense.
The pot is just the beginning. That same paste, that exact formula, works on stovetop burner grates. It works on the mineral deposits that build up around your kitchen sink faucet over years of hard water. It works on rust spots on old tools stored in a garage. Works on the grease buildup on oven racks that most of us have been quietly pretending not to see for the last 2 years. One formula, multiple surfaces. Under $2. My grandmother cleaned with something close to this for 40 years. She didn't have a cabinet full of specialty sprays. She didn't need one. She understood something that we have been carefully, expensively trained to forget, that cleaning is chemistry, and chemistry doesn't require branding. It doesn't require a marketing campaign. It doesn't require your loyalty to a company that treats your kitchen as a revenue stream. The knowledge was always here. It was just buried under decades of very well-funded advertising. Now it belongs to you again.